Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the June 29th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin Dowe, and I'll be serving as your host. We begin this evening as we do every evening. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to GBN Television. Thank you for listening on GBN Radio. Thank you for logging on to any of our social media platforms. The show it is because of you, because of your viewership, because of your participation, and we are truly grateful. For those who celebrate, happy Fisherman's Birthday. June 29th is always a memorable day on our festival calendar. Fisherman's Birthday, of course, is defined as a grand festival, and I know that my family in Gulf will be having a whale of a time as they celebrate Fisherman's Birthday 2026. So to all the fisher folk, happy Fisherman's Birthday to you. This evening, we are having a conversation on the NDC's 4 years in office. In June of 2022, we had an election, and the members of the National Democratic Congress came to us, the people, and presented what they hoped would be a contract by which they will manage the affairs of the state of Grenada. Well, we know the results of that proposition. The NDC won that election, and by virtue of that, the manifesto, which really is the contract with the people, hopefully have been implemented. So this evening, we will basically have a conversation looking at two things: the success of delivery on the contract to the people, that is the manifesto, and the preparations, because there are no more commemoration of anniversaries of elections, because we're now into year 5. So rather than come back here and talking about time in office, any future conversations will be on a re-election or election loss. I mean, that really is going to be it, because we're moving forward, assuming that there will be elections prior to June of 2027. No, that's not for us to decide at all. But the look and the conversation on the implementation, as the party would have hired a number of individuals to execute on the contract it made with the people. Those individuals who have been hired are hold offices as ministers of government. They chose MPs in some cases, other citizens in other cases. Party hired ministers to deliver on the contract that the people voted for in 2022. So we have two of the major players of the party to see how the contract with the people is being implemented by those hired to perform that role. We have the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, Member of Parliament, Andy Williams. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thank you, Colin.
Wonderful. We also have the Public Relations Officer, Member of Parliament, Ron Redhead. Welcome.
Good evening, Colin, and thank you very much.
Wonderful. And I deliberately wanted to frame the conversation in this term, so I'm not going to be saying Minister Williams and Minister Redhead, but you are both members of Parliament, so that title of MP you would hold.
Exactly.
Forgive me if I don't say honorable, but we're not in the House.
That's good.
That's right? Cool. So here we are. If you are to take a look, because you both are really the engine room of the NDC, the General Secretary and the PRO, those are two critical roles.
Yes.
So if you are to assess the performance of the folks that you hired, the guys who are now forming the executive branch of our government,
correct?
How would you rate the government? Let's say we give on a scale of 1 to 10. What would be your rating?
So my rating, Colin, will be 9 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm giving 9 is because, you know, there's always room for improvement. But why 9 out of 10? You may find me being cocky, but I'm not being cocky. Is the fact that when we came into office, we came in running. We had no experience in government before. Yeah, so it was our first time. The Prime Minister had no experience being a Prime Minister before, or a minister. I had no experience being a minister. Minister Redden had no experience being a minister. So we came into it learning on the job. And that in itself was a task, you know, it's like you have to be painting the bus while it's going, and to see what we have achieved. Yeah, and I mean, our mantra is putting people first. And when we came into office, we immediately dealt with the pension issue. We dealt with the dock salaries issue.
Well, if I can, so I would want to know what are some of the things that have been accomplished based on the promises to the people. Ron, how would you see? What would be your grade?
Similar to General Secretary, I would say that we have to give ourselves a 9. I mean, I would say that we have achieved great many things that we set out to achieve, 1. And 2, always leaving room for improvement, as General Secretary said, to be not so much modest, but to be credible. And there were some challenges. We had limitations with Hurricane Beryl, etc. We had to, in a sense, reformat what we were doing in terms of the track that we were on. And to be very frank, again, when it comes to implementation of the manifesto promises, campaign promises, we have done a pretty good job in ensuring that these promises were not just implemented, but today they are sustainable and they are working.
Just cite 3 areas for me of success.
Right. Yeah. So where we sit, we see the question of labor reform as a success, and labor reform in its broad sense. We introduced paternity leave. We introduced some other components that the Minister of Labor is currently working on, which is going to, in our view, enhance the quality of the worker in Grenada across the board, whether NNP, NDC, that sort of thing. We have done a great deal to roll out the creative industry, and in doing so, not just introducing another department, but rolling out a sector that is now generating its own excitement, its own revenue, and its own speed in terms of the contribution to the Grenadian economy. We have been able also to roll out the blue economy, and while it is still in its earlier stages, the expectation is that the fact that Grenada is surrounded by ocean, is a big ocean state, we need to ensure that we have the sector and the machinery to be able to build out the benefits that could be derived from it. So we are confident in that regard.
General Secretary, I heard your PRO mention labor, mention the creative industries, mention the blue economy. Are there any other areas in your mind as you reflect on the last 4 years and the implementation of the manifesto that you'd want to add to that as success?
There is another area, but before we get to that area, I want to expand on what the PRO just said. Remember, when we came into office, the pension, it was said that if we pay the pension, the economy will collapse, essentially. We came in, we paid the pension. It was also said that the bi-monthly salary, it could not be done, right? It was impossible, basically. And we came in and we got that done. Also, minimum wage. Remember that the last time it was reviewed was when the last NDC government was in office. For the last 10 years or so, it was not reviewed. We came in and we moved people's salary from being $700, $800, and $900 a month to a minimum wage of $1,200 a month. So our mantra, as I said earlier, is putting people first, and we have shown that we stuck to that. But also, I want to talk about education and TAMCC, because sometimes we tend to measure things in terms of dollars and cents. But when you empower someone through education, you are giving them something that can last a lifetime. And what we did, we took off the fees for TAMCC and the tuition for TAMCC and NULO. So students even going to school now do not have to worry about that. Even parents do not have to worry about the fees, the tuition fees for TAMCC and NULO. So these are just some of the things that we did. And in terms of care, I mean, we could go on and on.
So I heard in terms of year 3, right, you emphasized the pension, minimum wage, the bi-monthly salaries.
Right.
You also, of course, focus on TAMCC in terms of the education.
Yes.
If you are to say or identify 3 areas that government is still behind on, what will those 3 areas be?
I would say the national health insurance. We wanted to move fast on it. But again, when we came in, we met a system that was not effective. So we had to come in, change the system, and bring in a new one that we could get results faster. So that in itself, we wanted to be more advanced than where we are now. Project Polaris, again, we are trying our best to get it moving. But if you ask me, healthcare is so important that Project Polaris should have been implemented maybe 10, 15 years ago. So we are trying our best, and we understand the importance of healthcare to our country. And that is why, even though we are doing Project Polaris, we are still assisting or are still doing work at the general hospital to improve the healthcare, because we understand that we cannot wait until 4 or 5 years to improve healthcare. So we are simultaneously doing the Polaris while we are doing work in our general hospital.
Okay, so I heard NHI, and I'll come back to that.
Right.
I heard Polaris, and I'll come back to that.
Right.
Those are two. I mean, you don't have to give me three, but I'll certainly give you a PRO. Areas that you believe that you're behind on.
No, well, definitely. And in this regard, I may just be able to identify one, and I would say the question of the digital transformation. When we came in, there were a lot of silos in the government in terms of systems not being able to interact with each other, and so the investment that is required for improving the interoperability and just the general malaise that the operations within the public service that we met in terms of being able to drive innovation, drive digitization, drive that question of the transformation in the digital sector. We've been a little slow, notwithstanding that we have made some advancements. And I think, in all honesty, we had to reform a number of areas to be able to lead out that transformation. So speaking realistically, this is an area that we have a lot more work to do in this regard.
You talk about the general malaise in implementation. You've been 4 years in. You're not going to get a difference unless there's a change of culture. So tell me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing your interpretation is that there is a public service that is not in the habit of delivering, is not in the habit of working efficiently, some because of tools, some because of attitude. In the 4 years, how have the government, from your observation, gone about addressing the culture so that there is a greater rate of delivery?
Well, we've done a number of things. I can cite firstly, when we got in some of the statutory boards, normally it is tradition to pack them with political operatives, that sort of thing. We have taken a different route, which is public entity, a state-owned entity. We have invested significantly in the training and development of board members, so that when you serve on a board, you are contributing to the development, and you are not going there, in a sense, to fleece of resources because your party is in power, but you're going there to work. So we've done something in terms of reforming performance as it relates to statutory boards. The other
that's the leadership of the statutory boards, right, and state-owned
at the leadership level. That's correct. Now, the other thing is, as it relates to public workers generally, we have gone to pains to ensure that the government and the public workers, that relationship is preserved, and that the issues that were outstanding years when we came into office, we attempted to address them. General Secretary spoke about, of course, the pension and the retroactive nature of it. We have addressed a number of working conditions as well throughout the public service. So from schools to hospitals, medical stations, the building up at the Botanical Gardens. We have done a lot to address working conditions of workers. We still have more to do, don't get me wrong, but we saw that as a deliberate effort to be able to improve working conditions so that the output of workers could be vastly improved. The other thing which we have done is to utilize data as opposed to emotions to make stronger decisions, so that when the public officers are expected to implement, they are not implementing on a hunch or some kind of emotion, but we have actual data to support, to suggest. And so, for example, I want to place on record my appreciation, based on my observation of the Ministry of Finance, and being able to use a lot of the data that exists in the economy to be able to start making a bit more informed decisions in terms of the output expected. So we have done some things that we are very confident can improve that whole question of the general malaise of the public service.
So you're saying the malaise was primarily because of the working conditions. under which public officers...
Well, it was one of the reasons. I'm not saying that it was a primary reason, because, leadership...
Well, if it's not the primary reason, then you have to tell me what the primary reason is.
Well, where we sit, we believe that leadership had a lot to do with it. We look, for example, at the recovery after Hurricane Beryl. Compared to Hurricane Ivan, Emily, we thought that the recovery back then was slower than Beryl was now. And generally...
Is that a fair comment? And I ask this from the standpoint that Beryl was primarily isolated to Carriacou, northern Grenada, and not necessarily as much in the quote-unquote engine room of the economy, which is different from Ivan. So is that a fair comparison?
It's fair in the context that Carriacou being almost, in a sense, displaced from mainland Grenada. The challenges there would have been far greater than we even would have experienced in Grenada, because Grenada after Ivan received a lot of help. In this instance with Beryl, Hurricane Beryl, Grenada had to push to be able to assist Carriacou, Petit Martinique. And so when I talk about the recovery, I'm not necessarily talking about all the buildings, the expansion of the airport, all these other things, because naturally mainland was not severely affected as in the case of Ivan. But what I am talking about is the general effort that was put in to recover the twin islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And I thought it was different in the sense that for the first time, Grenada now understood to a larger extent what and how to manage recovery. And again, I attribute that to the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister at the time, and certainly during the storm, and even the Member of Parliament for Carriacou, Petit Martinique. So, the difference there, as where we see it, is leadership.
Okay. All right. Anything to add, Jensek?
No, I just want to echo what Minister Riddett said, or P.R. Riddett, as you say, tonight. But I want to also give credit where credit is due. And Minister Tevin Andrew has done a great job in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. If you go back to Carriacou now, I can tell you that you will not believe a hurricane passed there 2 years ago. And in terms of infrastructure, not just in Carriacou, but Petit Martinique. And as Minister said, sometimes the logistics to get to Carriacou is much harder than being in Grenada. So that in itself is,
Will the people of Carriacou see the same when they see a lot of the public buildings still devastated, a lot of the homes still inhabitable? Will they echo your sentiments?
So let me just say this. We are in 2026 now. And I can tell you, Ivan was in 2004. And more than 10 years after Ivan, you have had buildings still not repaired. So in the short space of time, I would say yes. And what the minister is doing up there, he's ensuring that the people are being taken care of. When you look at the amount of Build Back Better homes that is being constructed, is just amazing. Yeah, so, and Colin, we have to be practical, and everything cannot be done in a day. Rome was not built in a day. We know that we have work to do. We know people still need to, their conditions still need to be improved and checked on. But all in all, I could say, it's a good job. But also, I just want to add something to the question. Because when we came into office, we understood, we saw the implementation of projects being lagging behind. And that's why the Prime Minister and his advisors found it necessary to have, or to put into place, a Ministry of Implementation. And sometimes people think that implementation has to do with all projects. Yeah, we monitor all projects, but what we do, we focus on the priority projects. So for example, we are talking about the manifesto here tonight. We have a special segment in MIT that deals with pushing the project from the manifesto to ensure that it is completed.
I think we have a better marketer than you, Mr. Piaro. I hear MP Williams marketing his ministry. Right?
That's a good thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and when you look at projects like Fort George, if you go to Fort George now and you see what Fort George looks like, it's just amazing. Yeah, before we had the police headquarters up there, etc. And this project was on the book since August of 2017. Didn't move. Yeah, even the UK Safe project now that is being implemented. Folks are completed now about the road, but we have to get the pipes on the ground first before we do the road. But this project, Colin, if the proper planning was done, should have started maybe since 2016, 17, 18, because we got the funding in 2016. However, when we came into office, in 2022, we lost the monies because of the economic conditions in the UK. Prime Minister and I, we fought to get back, and now we are implementing this project, which when completed, we surface the main road, and you're talking about 70 million EC dollars grant funding. So MIT is there to ensure that projects get implemented, but the priority projects, and that's one of the ways that we are using to push implementation in the government.
So you would say that one of the success, you didn't list the ministry when you're naming the success, but the creation, you would say, of that ministry is one of the successes in order to drive the manifesto and the priorities.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
One of the things that was a headline in the manifesto was empowering people.
Yes.
And one of the key things was healthcare.
Yeah.
Of course, you mentioned it, so let's discuss it. Project Polaris.
Yes.
You say it's behind. If you are to identify, where is it really? When we say define, how far behind is it? Are we, let's say, sitting here today, if you were thinking forward back in 2022, where do you believe we would have been today, one? And two, where do you believe we will get there as you project?
So when I say behind, let me just go back a little bit more to where you started from, Colin. And sometimes, Project Polaris is so important to us because we have one of the top universities in the world since the 70s. And to see where we are with healthcare now, it's just, it's unacceptable. So basically, when we came into office, we had in our manifesto Project Polaris, basically. And the idea was to see how quickly we could get it going, because we understand that healthcare is really important for the public and the citizens of Grenada. So we would have wanted to be further advanced, but guess what? In order for us to get it going, we need to get funding. But not just any funding, because we could have gotten all the funds already a long time ago. But we needed to get funding that was sustainable, that was cheap, that was cost effective, so that to our people, and we spend time doing that. Yeah, but not just the designs and so, but even on the site where the hospital is going, it's a place that is prone to flooding, etc. And we had to get even the drainage properly done. We had to do the impact assessment again to get it done. So if you ask me, healthcare is so much in demand. It's so much the top of the list for us. We wish we could have gotten Project Polaris 10 years ago. So if so, behind meaning that we really want to get it going.
That's fine.
Colin, yeah.
If we can, and I don't believe there's a single right-minded Grenadian that will object to Project Polaris.
You might be surprised.
No, I will maintain what I said.
Right.
But the question still remains: where are we?
Yeah.
We know that there was a purchase of land. You mentioned a number of things.
Right.
You mentioned design. You mentioned we purchased land in a flood-prone area, and therefore we had to do drainage.
Right.
You mentioned our having to secure funds. Some of that would be by loan.
Right.
And so I will ask, what is our repayment strategy for a project of the magnitude of Project Polaris? So, for example, have the designs being completed?
Yes.
For example, and when I say design now, I'm talking fit for purpose. And fit for purpose, then I will ask, have we agreed on what will be the economic driver of the hospital? Because at the end of the day, I don't anticipate Grenadians or the tax dollars that have been collected previously to fund the hospital.
Right.
So what is the funding mechanism to ensure that Project Polaris is sustainable? I mean, has this been shared with you as a party? Because this is what was in your manifesto.
Well, first of all, let me just say that when it comes to funding, and exactly what you're speaking about now, is exactly what's happening now, where healthcare is basically free for anyone in the country. But healthcare should be free for Grenadians. Yeah, and that's number one. Number two, Colin, is that we are in the process of statutorizing the hospital, because we understand that certain basic services, certain services should not be free for outsiders, and that's why we have to merge that.
But should it be free for Grenadians anyway?
Yes, but that's why I'm going to the point that even the national health insurance, it goes hand in hand. Yeah, where the NHI will help fund the hospital, right? And that's number two. But number three also, we have a chance to drive economic activity through the hospital. You know how much people that want to retire in Grenada, that want to come back to Grenada, and will not come back because they fear that the healthcare here is so much, not the best.
So you mentioned not being free. Well, first of all, there should be a pay for service. I think we agree on that through NHI or other.
NHI, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Others, because when you say it shouldn't be free for outsiders, I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, health tourism.
Correct.
And if that is the case, have we decided on which aspect of health tourism we will get involved in as Grenada? Because I am a little bit troubled if we're saying we're designing, but we don't know what we're going to do in the hospital. I'm a little bit worried. So from what you have been informed, because I'm talking to party officials now, right? Can you share where are we going to hang our hats in terms of health tourism that will serve as the economic driver to repay the loans and ensure good services for Grenadians and returning nationals?
But I think the model that we have, it will help repay the loans, because at the end of the day, it will not be operating again for free. Right? For local citizens, the funding will come from NHI. For people coming from outside, they will have to pay for the services. Yeah, so it will not be for free. But also, Colin, the fact that Grenada has a chance to lead, to seriously lead in healthcare in the region. Yeah, and we are looking at being a hub, a health hub for the region when it comes to healthcare.
But you will appreciate, and I buy into all of this.
Yes.
But if we are to be a hub, we must decide a hub in what? We cannot be all things to all men.
Right.
So we must make a decision, who are we going to be as Grenada in the healthcare fraternity? Right. Have we decided on that?
I would say yes, we have decided on that. And as an administration, it's something that, again, we have designed, we have agreed on. The Minister of Health, like I tell you, as we speak now, is putting things in place. So number one, standardize, and number two, specialize also. More details will be given, but I don't want to speak for the Minister of Health, but I can tell you, Colin, the plan is in place, the funding is in place, and we are looking to move forward. Now, after project launch, I know some folks were kind of concerned that nothing was taking place. We had to stop for a while, do the ESI, the environmental, social and impact assessment before we proceed. Now that is done, it's completed, and we are proceeding now with the drainage, etc., so that we can start work on
One will argue, wasn't the cart before the horse? Was this a PR gimmick, Minister? That you turn sod and then do the ESI?
No, not at all. I think the first step is to be able to construct this hospital before we even talk about being the lead in terms of the OECS for medical tourism. Where we sit, and General Secretary alluded to it, there was the need to complete the impact assessment both on the environment and the social situation. That has been completed. The issue where we see it, and going back to General Secretary, is that this is something long overdue. Now, getting the funding, making sure that the overarching plan involving the people necessary is also a process, and statutorization of the current general hospital is part and parcel of what is expected to be able to roll out this new model that we are talking about, that is able to fund itself, fund the repairs, renovation, maintenance, if you may, of the new hospital, but also do it in a manner that is generating resources, revenues for the country, as opposed to the current model, which takes, and does not find a way to give back. And one of the things that we have been able to identify is on the question of management, because healthcare, while it talks about the delivery of services, the question of who is delivering those services and how that service is being delivered is what we also need to improve. So we've been working in the background through the Ministry of Health and through the project sponsor, Andrea St. Bernard, to be able to establish standards, so to speak, as we go. So once this project is complete.
That is the Mount Sinai Agreement.
Mount Sinai Agreement. And it's going well, because we are pushing ahead simultaneously with the people and capacity development, and also the infrastructure.
If I can just move to a couple of things that because I want to move over healthcare,
Right.
but I can't move over healthcare without addressing two things that you cited within the manifesto. One, dialysis. Two, oncology. Cancer's killing us,
Yeah.
right? And of course, dialysis is a plague. Kidney failure, it's a challenge, and the cost of dialysis. Where are we based on your commitment through the manifesto? Where is Grenada today?
Yeah. Well, we have been advancing. There is still room for improvement in this regard, because as you could well appreciate, this is not an easy task. If it was easy, it would have been done already. One of the things that we are doing is that the cost to access those treatment is a major component and concern for us. And so NHI is going to be necessary in order to facilitate that. Now, on the question of all of these chronic illnesses, diet comes into play, nutrition comes into play, even sometimes the water that we are consuming, that may come into play. So it's a cause that for concern that we have to always analyze and look at. But I really couldn't speak to an actual deadline. Again, we'll have to leave that up to the Minister of Health.
And that's fine. I heard NHI about 3 or 4 times. We canceled our contract. We don't have a new contract, but everything hinges on NHI. So have we shot ourselves in the foot by canceling the contract and having nothing?
No, I would say no. We were not satisfied with the performance of the first team, and we gave them a chance. We gave them a long enough chance, and we were not satisfied. So basically, we made a decision because we want to get this going, Colin, right? And I am satisfied with the Minister of Health and his team and how far they have reached now, and I have faith and confidence in them. So,
okay. Other area, we talk about cannabis industries.
yes.
I have seen nothing on cannabis industries. I've seen the legalization, I've seen the decriminalization of the consumption of quantities of cannabis, but I've seen nothing on the cannabis industries that's supposed to address the medicinal value as well as develop an export market. Is this one of the frustrations that you've had, and has the legislation that's been passed in Parliament fallen short of what the promise in the manifesto was?
It has not fallen short. It is a first step from where we sit. The process to fully legalize marijuana is a process, first and foremost. There is, in a sense, a framework established by the OECS on this. In terms of the report, I can't remember the exact year, but however, in any event, there is a report on this. And so we are following the model. In Grenada's case, one of the things we really have to do is almost a session of onboarding, both from the police standpoint and also the end users of marijuana. All right, and remember, what we are talking about is to build out a medicinal industry with the use of cannabis. And this is going to take some time to develop. However, we have laid the framework already by passing the legislation as an immediate step to first and foremost decriminalize quantities of marijuana to begin the process of the conversion towards
but there isn't a framework on the production, but because people are growing marijuana,
right?
But there isn't anything addressing the farmers and bringing them into the
this
fold.
is why the commission, for example, is going to be established to be able to take on that responsibility. The central government role and function is to facilitate us getting to that point. How we get there now, we need to build out the other elements and facets to be able to implement that. And so that is currently ongoing. We are satisfied to a large extent that we've made some strides, but as with everything else, human nature, there is always room for improvement in terms of the time. And we are not going on the basis that we are dealing with in any time sensitivity. As the Prime Minister said, I want the people to understand that there should be no change in government for the next 5 years. This is how we see it. And what we are doing is taking our time to say that we promised this. We didn't say we would do it in our first term, but we promise, and we have commenced the efforts to be able to lead.
Are you suggesting that this is a 10-year manifesto that was delivered in 2022?
No, but let me just butt in and say that we have to understand that this is a sensitive subject, right? We have already done the decriminalization. In terms of the legalization, we will be getting an update late July. but we have to do a lot of due diligence. We cannot rush the process, right? So you might find us taking our time with it, but because we know we have to take our time in doing it. It's not a quick fix, but we are making sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's in doing so, because it is sensitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly go on to sports before we move off of the people aspect of it. One of the things within the manifesto was the pay-for-play philosophy. If one is representing a national team, they will get a stipend while they're in training, etc. Has this been done?
It has been done, and I can say to you, I was happy to be at the helm at the time to lead in the full implementation of the national sports policy on physical activity and sports generally in Grenada. Now, this was something we promised, and we were able to achieve that. Rolling it out now, we have the National Sports Council, which again is a new entity, and it's something that we believe, once given time, is going to be able to fully roll out and implement the areas. So when you talk about pay-to-play, under that sports policy, one of the things new that we did, because since 2012, essentially it was passed, the minister at the time never signed off. And so when we got in, we were able to do that, review it, and implement new components, is the question of compensation to the athletes for their performance. Because, Colin, one of the challenges that we have observed with athletes in Grenada, when they compete internationally, because in the past they were not given any major support, is only so far they could go. Sports is expensive. They have to pay for training and development of their own physical fitness. They have to invest a lot of their personal resources, which in some cases they do not have, because at the given time they can't work and still perform at a national and international level. And so you almost have to exclusively, if you're going internationally, go hard at it. So you needed the support, and it was not there. So after the passage of this particular legislation and amendment, we were then able to introduce that whole question of the incentive package. And it is something that we have seen paid off. You can think about Kirani James.
But no, I'm thinking of the elite athletes who we're building a platform out, who represent Grenada, building a platform out. Kirani is okay. Kirani is a professional athlete who has done extremely well. Let us not...
He's a hard worker.
He is a hard worker and has been richly rewarded. So I'm not referring here now to a Kirani James, and I don't believe that the manifesto spoke to giving monies to the likes of a Kirani James and others, but it is investment in the future. So do we have, through the sports policy, an elite athlete program where individuals are identified, they can be remunerated, can be supported so that they can take their craft to the next level, and then we're able to win them because they then land the Nike contracts and Puma and otherwise.
So that is the expectation, but not as yet. Part of the challenge why we have not rolled that out yet is that from a community standpoint, because for an athlete to emerge, there has to be a clear strata or tier or system for them to come through the ranks so that we could be able to, in a sense, want of a better word, compile that, track performances, and, in a sense, export. I think where we have some measure of challenge is that there's only so much the student can give. Once they complete secondary school and they go pro, then the potential could almost become limitless once they are getting the support. So it's, in a sense, part of the whole process of probably what we need to review to ensure that we are turning out more Kirani James, more Anderson Peters, more Lyndon Victors, etc. But the platform that we promised, we have been able to lay that foundation.
Okay. It is time for... Go ahead.
But let me just say this too. Colin, when you look over the past year or two in terms of how we have rewarded our athletes, not just in athletics, because sometimes we just think about athletics alone, but even in cricket, right? When you see how handsomely we have rewarded our athletes with hundreds of thousands of dollars, it shows that we are serious about sports.
MP, I'm challenging that because we are given who has. In other words, and I'm saying it from the standpoint that those we have rewarded, I'm not saying they're not deserving. I'm a huge fan of everyone else. You mentioned cricket. Afi Fletcher is near and dear to my heart.
Right.
She is a national hero in my view.
Lovely.
And in your rewarding her for her efforts, I don't know of any woman who have come back after childbirth and go to the top of her sport as she did.
Right.
Total respect.
Right.
Anything she gets, she deserves.
Right.
And that's not in question. Where I'm going, and I think that may have been, at least certainly my interpretation of the manifesto, is how do you create additional Afi Fletchers? So how do you create an environment where those athletes with talent can train so that they can move on to the next level and we wean them? Because they're now professional, they're now working, we don't need to take care of them as closely.
Right, so while I agree with you on that, and as Pierre said that we are working on that, right? I also want to challenge you the same way in terms of when we look at, let's look at the Caribbean. We were top in cricket in the 80s, and so right, and we started to decline. And you hear that the likes of Brownlow, etc., say that you have basketball and all these other sports now that people are going to because they are seeing it being lucrative. Now I'm saying I do not take the fact that we are rewarding our athletes for granted, because if we don't do that, the same individuals at a lower level will not see the attractiveness or will not see it as being attractive, and they may go into other things. So the fact that we are rewarding them, number one, for their hard work, it encourages the other athletes. So here what, if Kiwani can do it, I can do it too. If Kiwani is successful, if he sees that the government is giving him incentives and so for his performance, I want to be like Kiwani. For example, I want to make sure we get a point, right? T20 and Test cricket. You find players hardly want to play Test cricket for West Indies now because they see the money in T20. So I'm saying the incentives is very important to keep even alive the fire at a younger age.
And I think we're in agreement, right, is that every country has talent. The question is that if you don't invest in the grassroots,
right,
then that talent will not emerge. With the Lyndon Victor, the Anderson Peters, the Kirani James, they probably are freaks of nature. Right? So, but let's move. What can move our children? Right. From good to very good, from very good to great.
Right, but so I want to really, because sometimes we take these things for granted. Do you know, Colin, when we came into office, right, intercall will like stall for a little while. Is when we went, you had a proper intercall when we came into office, right? Because we ensured that the teachers and so the doc salaries were paid. We ensured that we invested in intercall. The government was the major sponsor of intercall, right? And that again, Colin, is to ensure that our young athletes are being seen, that we are investing in them, and that's how we see it. So as it is now, as PRO said, that we are trying our best to do exactly what you're saying, right, with the grassroots. But all in all, you can see the effort from this administration to really place emphasis on sports, because we understand what it can do for our young people of the country. But you said something, Colin, and I can't make it get off the thing like that. You made mention that this may be a 10-year manifesto. Let me just say this, right? We talk about pension, we paid pension. We talk about bi-monthly payment, we did that. We spoke about minimum wage, we did that. We spoke about travel between Kayaku and Petit Martinique and Grenada, reliable travel, we did that. We talk about establishing the cannabis industry, we are doing that. We talk about the creative industries. And when you look at all the wonderful music that has been produced in Grenada, right? I mean, right now we are on top of the charts in terms of soca music, right? Black Adam and Mr. Killer was the last two winners of Soca Monarch in Trinidad. And it goes to show the improvement that we are making in the creatives, and it's because of the amount that we are investing in the creative industry. So when you look at what we say we will do from our manifesto, we have done maybe about 70% of what we say we will do. So I want to just defend our track record. I can't make it just slide away with that as the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress.
Very well. It is time for us to take our first break. So viewers and listeners, we'll be right back with the conversation examining the 4 years in office of the National Democratic Congress. Very well.
Planet, located at number 3 NIS Complex, specializes in everything for your children from newly born and upward. At Kids Planet, you will find clothing, school bags, hair accessories, sandals, shoes, strollers, car seats, bathtubs, baby bags, swings, walkers, playpens, and many more. So what are you waiting for? Hurry on down to Kids Planet and find what you have been looking for. Or call them on 444-3996 or 533-3996.
Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe, nestled in the serene surroundings of Le Phare-Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, is the perfect spot to unwind and relax after a stressful event or when you wish to spoil yourself in the most comfortable and relaxing atmosphere. They offer many different massage modalities, including thigh hammer, washer and cupping, signature thigh deep tissue massage, also facials to depuff and tighten pores, deep cleanse full body, hair and nail treatments and more. Take a walk down to the cafe for authentic Thai breakfasts and delicious traditional dishes. Choose from our special mixed drinks, both hot and cold. Opens daily. Visit Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe today, Le Phare-Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, because you will not regret you did.
Life doesn't stand still. It moves. It grows. It asks you to believe in what's next. Your first car. Owning your home. The business you build. The future you choose to invest in. Life moves in steps. When you're ready to take the next one, we're here to help you move forward with banking solutions designed for life. From vehicle financing and mortgages to education savings, credit solutions, and support for your growing business. Republic Bank, ready for life, every step.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. We're examining the NDC's 4 years in office with the General Secretary, MP Andy Williams, and Public Relations Officer, MP Ron Redhead. MP Redhead, youth unemployment, that has always been a nagging thing. As you look at the administration's performance, how has that been addressed? Are we at a standstill? Is it coming down? What is the delivery? Because that, again, was something singled out in the manifesto.
Well, the IMF, in its latest report, has given Grenada a favorable rating as it relates to the performance of the economy. I think the challenge for us is the vulnerability. But to answer that specific question of the unemployment, it is coming down. General unemployment is in the region of about 7.5%, single digits. We are very happy to that. Our goal is to in a sense, achieve full employment. We are hopeful that we could get to that point. But youth unemployment still remains relatively high, is about 20-21% thereabout. And so it's still a major challenge. But one of the things that we have done was to be able to upskill, as promised in the manifesto, the Imani program, right? And not just upskill it. Many of them have now been receiving permanent employment in terms of transitioning out of the program completely, both from the public and private sector. The expectation is that having increased minimum wage, the stipends that were being given to our young people of 600 in some instances, 700 in some instances. We even met at one point the situation of the program where somebody could reduce your stipend, right? So you could be making at least $300 per month if you didn't meet certain criteria, if in a sense they want to punish you. So we strongly believe that that program was set up in the past to be almost like a slavery mechanism of vote farm for certain administrations. So where we sit now, we have upskilled that program and turned it into a more sustainable.
What is the average tenure of someone in the Imani? It's supposed to be a training program as designed. But what is the average tenure?
18 months, sorry, to 2 years. But we have seen in some instances people 10, 15 years as a trainee, and that is counterproductive. And so we have been able to reverse that situation, not so much by talk, but a lot of action went in. First and foremost, getting an appreciation. I could tell you somewhere around 2023, there was an assessment conducted, and at least a total of about 8,000 young people had passed through the Imani program. But in its height, it was only able, in a sense, to keep there about 2,000 young people. Okay. And so that is a problem. So it meant a lot of people passed through. Some may have received training, and very few were able to transition in the world of work. So we were creating.
So how do you make the distinction between the 8,000 and the 2,000? And because moving on should be a good thing. Right. One would assume that they were trained and they move into permanent jobs utilizing the skills. Are you saying that's not what happened? So or they went on the unemployment line?
Precisely, that is what had happened. And then having come in, one of the things that we were able to identify, particularly among the young people, was that you had the situation of unemployment, underemployment, and just the inability for some of the young people to be employable, right? Even having gone through the Imani program, some of them couldn't write a simple job application, right? And so that was a challenge. So upskilling them in the areas that they could be functional was a critical area that, or effort that the government did to be able to transition that. But this is not the end game. We have been working on what is called the Youth Empowerment Agency. We announced it at our last budget, and we have been working on that. We are satisfied that, having visited even countries like in St. Lucia in the region to see how they were rolling their program out, we are satisfied that Grenada is on verge to launch its Youth Empowerment Agency.
So, Colin, let me just intervene there, right? So in addition to what Pierre just spoke about in terms of the Youth Empowerment Agency, we also have Project Skill. And what Project Skill does is that's where we understand that not everyone is academically inclined. And starting from September, we are looking to introduce skill training in school at a serious level. We are starting with the secondary school. Yeah, and we are going to dedicate 1 day per week where we're going to start with a pilot first to see how it's going. 1 day per week where students will get to not just learn the theory, but the practical also. Because we understand that, everyone is not the same, may not learn the same. You may find students dropping out from school because they find that they are just not successful. And we term them as being duns because they are not.
But they learn differently and have different interests.
Right.
Okay.
So we understand that, and that's why we have Project Skill. That's part of our transformational project. Now, as an administration, what we did, we have 4 priorities, main priorities. Number 1 is healthcare. Number 2 is education. Number 3 is housing. Number 4 is energy. Now, when you talk about education, you're talking about not just the academics, right? We refer to the skill set also. And in doing so, we will be able to better prepare our students for for other opportunities that exist outside it. But number two, what we plan on doing also is to map the job needs outside it. So that when one leaves secondary school, for example, like when I left GBSS and I went to college, no one guided me as to what to study. I like business, I said, let me just go and study business. What we should be doing, we should be taking a scientific approach to let students know exactly what are the jobs that is needed. So that what
as we're going future now?
No.
We're reflecting on the 4 years. So
No, we are doing it now. As a matter of fact, my ministry, MIT, as we speak, that's one of the directives that we have to map the job needs, so that we will be able to guide our students as to and align them to the job needs outside it, because we could have 20 students who maybe have the bachelor's in business, but the needs could be in something else. So if we can, and even psychology, a lot of students study psychology, but what are the demands for psychology in the Guyana market? So that's something that we are doing, and we think if we do that, we can map the job opportunities outside there with the qualifications, so that our students can take advantage of the job that exists in the country, and we don't have to import labor all the time.
Let me ask you this, because just in terms of hearing, because you say we are doing, we're launching off on the we are doing. Mm-hmm. We had the phrase, things are happening.
Of course.
But we also hear some people saying, but we're not feeling the impact. Why is that? Is there a disconnect between all of the things that are happening and people feeling the impact? And even you referenced the IMF report earlier. Even the IMF report, in acknowledging all the things that were happening and the construction, they projected a lower growth rate than the Ministry of Finance did, because they seem to be saying that things are happening, but it would not necessarily spin off in the type of growth that the Ministry of Finance was estimating. So why this apparent disconnect?
So let me just answer that before PR. Let me just butt in there. Because it's strange. I have business people coming to me every day, and Minister, we need workers for construction, we need workers for different fields, and they cannot get workers. They are on us now in terms of the Ministry of Labor to import labor. Yeah, and business people complaining every day that they cannot get workers. So my thing is that sometimes we have to be careful that we don't just repeat things that may just be said, but take the scientific approach to see exactly if it's true or not. Now, if you ask me what needs to be done, we need to empower our people to get the higher paying jobs. For example, at the hotels, most of the time you have the managerial positions, the folks from outside come and get it, and we get a lower paying jobs. So in terms of, Colin, I will say in terms of the employment, we have seen a drastic decrease in the unemployment rate. What it means is that we have to reskill our people to occupy those jobs that may pay more, so that they can earn more at the end of the day. But also too, Colin, I have to say that even you find people living standards now are increasing. Where before, I just joined a reference, right? Before people used to drink water from the pipe, no one drink pipe water again. Everyone drinks a bottle of water, it costs money. So I'm saying sometimes when people living standards increase, then the expense will increase also. So their disposable income may, the power of the disposable income may drop as a result. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, we can see the decrease in unemployment in the country, and we know it's a fact.
And you can I'll just factor this in. Some party supporters have heard saying that the government seemed to have a communication problem. So as the engine room of the party, do you believe that the government has a communication problem which is impacting on you, the party, because you're saying that we are at how much percent of the manifesto implemented, but people are saying things are happening but I'm not feeling it. So how do you address that disconnect, and is there a communication problem?
We don't necessarily have a communication problem in the sense that the people do not know what is happening. I can tell you, this is the most I have seen information shared about a government, any government, in any recent time. And we can cite oil and gas, cite all other sectors, elements of our economy. But I think the challenge is people would ultimately listen to what they want to listen to, right? Are we saying the right things? Yes, we believe so. So in our view, this question of the disconnect is not necessarily a problem. It just shows that we need to do more to talk about some of the things that we have done, are doing, and some of the things that we are expected to do. And that's why we are building out the People's Manifesto, for example, where we'll get the people involved. In the prior occasions, we essentially saw us as politicians or other bright men sitting in a room and presenting a document. And I'm not saying in this instance that was fully done, because mind you, we did engage in consultations. Mind you, we had countless of town hall meetings all over the country at the last election season, and we were able to create this manifesto. However, we need to take it a step further. And having seen over the last 4 years in terms of the government and how involved the people are and want to be, we believe that they are going to give more creative ideas. So I will tell you this. I think the number one challenge has to be with the external factors of the cost of living. And it's not a Grenada problem. It is a regional problem, and I dare say international problem, largely led by the disruptions in the economic situation, largely led by the quote-unquote geopolitical tensions as well. And so we have to deal with that aspect and element, at the same time continue on the track that we were going based on our manifesto, because it is not for the government to get flustered at the sight of every geopolitical instability that we see, because we are running a country. This is not just a little community shop, and therefore we do not need to be intimidated by so much by that. What we need to do is to continue planning and to be real with people. We will have moments where the cost of living will spike. It is totally out of our control, and therefore our main focus would be how do we respond to it, when do we respond, which is going to, so the country is going to see a response. So I would say, while we have seen great many achievements, so fall in unemployment and on the other areas, and even the projections that was declined by the IMF, notwithstanding we did fall, but in comparison to the region, we are doing in Grenada a good job in managing our economy. So the real disconnect has to do with the external factors of the cost of living that is affecting not just Grenada, but the entire globe.
So Colin, let me just butt in there, right? Because as the general secretary of the party, we fight every day. Every day we fight.
Yeah, okay, I can understand.
PRO, we need this out. PRO, we need this out, We fight every day. And I could say that, yes,
But there's some things that the PRO from the party can say, but some things belong within the realm of the government. And that was my question, whether there is a shortfall in the communications coming from government, because the PR of the party is saying something, especially when the PR was not a minister, so he certainly was sitting in the executive. Right. We could hear it or not hear it, especially if you put it on your Facebook page. I'm not a member of your party, and I go on your Facebook page, but I will follow something coming from the official channels. Right. And that really was the question.
And what we have seen, though, I must say that even the Ministry of Infrastructure, we have seen the Ministry of Infrastructure hire a PR firm to really push, what it's doing on a national level, and other ministries follow the same, because we understand that sometimes you get so caught up in working and really fulfilling your mandate that you forget, hey, let me just stop and market what I'm doing a bit. So that's maybe one of our setbacks, and also where we could have done better. But it's because we really focus on trying to improve the lives of our people. So all in all, it's room for improvement. And I just want to say before we go on to the next point, that we understand that we have room for improvement. We understand that there's more to be done. And if you listen to our tone and our attitude, it's not that we have done so much and we do not plan to do. We have done so much, and our attitude is that we still have to do more, because we understand that in order for us to really move this country forward, it's not just doing what we see we will do, but changing mindset also. And if we have to change the mindset, we have to change first of all the mindset that we are all separate, and the fighting and the bickering come together. Let's
go change of mindset, and this one might be a bit controversial. But let me draw a scenario. None of the parties are involved in active politics, so I'm going to use this as an example and get you a definition. Right. For example, I am Minister of Agriculture. the Perseverance landfill original site is about to expire. And therefore, or maybe not therefore, family members of mine acquire lands adjacent to the Perseverance landfill. And then solid waste needed to open up a new site. And when they looked, lands were right there available, and my family was able to provide same. Would you define that as being unethical?
No, I think first of all, a conversation needs to be had, right? And in having the conversation, I think that's where both parties can come to an agreement. And so, so I would not say unethical.
So you would not say the fact that I, as Minister of Agriculture, knew this was taking place?
Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes.
You knew it? Right.
Yes, that this is where we were, right. And hence my family members were able to acquire land adjacent.
Right.
So when the opportunity came, they benefited.
Right. I thought you meant someone just independently acquired the land. That was the accommodation supposed to be had. Yeah. Well, even as ministers, I have to say, our Prime Minister is very strict on that. He's a no-nonsense person when it comes to ethics and so. And I will, as a minister in this position, guard against that. And it's not something that we want to do, because even not just in ethics, but even if you look to the Bible, it tells you that do not let the appearance of good be determined as being evil.
Juxtapose that, therefore, with the acquisition of land of 2 of your party members next to the purchase of Project Polaris. How is that different from the scenario that I drew, the Perseverance?
Without, it's not 2 of the party members, it's the party. Mm-hmm. It's not the party members. It's not to say it's the treasurer, it's not their land. It's the party's land. So it's a completely different scenario immediately.
And so much so that the business that had acquired those properties was since 2014, thereabout, or even earlier. That business was created for the very purpose to acquire assets on behalf of the party. Because what we want to do is build out an institution. We're not about building just a party for the sake of it. We're a group of men, and today we are up and tomorrow we are down. We want to leave a lasting institution where we can train young people how to take up political leadership in the future. So that's part of the goal. But this property is acquired to construct the National Democratic Congress headquarters, and we have been public about this. Yeah. In fact, I could recall in 2024, even before Hurricane Beryl, us speaking about this and putting it out there, constantly lamenting that fact. So there is nothing to hide, and there was no deliberate attempt to purchase property for any benefit, so to speak, as a result of Project Polaris. Project Polaris property, in sense, was always destined for it where it was. There was no question with that. There was never any quid pro quo, which I assume the question is attempting to kind of bring out. And I think I want to address this because as PRO, we often hear this, I would say, unfair, wild allegation about corruption and corruption. Colin, people need to quantify what they are calling corruption, because where we sit, we have been working extremely hard to do a number of things above board. When we see the amount of revenue, for example, statutory boards are now able to make, and I can draw one example, that is the gravel and concrete scenario. Where we inherited gravel and concrete in terms of the books to where it is now is totally different. Marketing board is a similar experience. The point I am making is that we see our development as something where transparency is pivotal, is critical to that question of the development. As I said, we have nothing to hide. So in the case of Project Polaris, all the purchase is above board, right? We have an official opposition in place. There is what you call the Public Accounts Committee, where they can interrogate, get information, compile, and also put it out there.
But also audited financial statements is needed for the Public Accounts Committee to work.
That is correct.
And that has been absent.
Well, I would not say absent. It has been almost a non-factor in for as many of years. And I can give you an example. Just recently at one of our sitting, we just released the reports, the audited financial statements of Marketing Board since 2015 or thereabout, and we are in 2026.
But I know time is going, so permit me to just interrupt. And I want to speak about the party because the question was really directed to the party.
But it was a question about party members' names being affiliated with lands adjacent to Project Polaris.
Right, and I want to say, as General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, we look back at history and we understand that, for example, when GULP, it died with Gary. And we have seen parties died with a leader or with a man. And for us, we are trying to build an organization that will outlast.
No, and I get that.
Right.
I think the question here was, and it has been in the public domain, where two members of the party, I believe the political leader and the floor member or treasurer, names were singled out as directors of a company that made a purchase of the land adjacent to Project Polaris.
But directors by virtue of being members of the party.
But we answered that. But we answered that. So, but the point I want to make before we move on to the next point is that we see the need to build the organization to ensure that we build a party that doesn't just die with someone. For example, our leader now is very popular. And we do not want, when our Prime Minister leaves, at a certain point in time, then the party falls. So what we are doing as a party is to ensure that we build a party, an organization that will that we can see the transition of leaders. For example, Minister Redder now, in 3 election cycles, will be the age of our Prime Minister. So you may very well see leaders like Minister Redder coming forward to be the next leader or Prime Minister of the country based on, according to how we really plan the organization going forward. And as General Secretary, it is my job to ensure that the organs of the party are functioning and that we put plans in place for the longevity and continuation.
Well, this is actually a nice way for us to segment into the party operations, but we need to take a break.
No
so
problem.
We'll take our next break, and when we come back, we will delve into the operations of the National Democratic Congress and its preparations for the next elections.
We search for brilliance, looking far, asking wide, not realizing it's been right here all along. Makers, storytellers, dreamers shaping color, rhythm, and vision into something only Grenadians can create. But for too long, we've been working in the dark, hidden, overlooked, out of reach. Until now, Dowe's Creative Directory brings everyone, creatives, businesses, and the community into one connected space. Find the artist who understands your vision, the jeweler whose craft speaks for itself, the storyteller and musician whose work reflects who we are. Visit us at creativeaffairs.gov.gd. Your next collaboration is only one search away.
For Grenada to realize its true potential, we must all be a part of nation building. From every corner of the world, our sons and daughters carry the spirit of the Spice Isle in their hearts through culture, innovation, investment, and service. Now is the time to come home to your beautiful Tri-Island state to reconnect with our roots, share our knowledge, to inspire our youth, and to help shape a stronger, more resilient economy for generations to come. We are all part of the collective journey to shape the future of our nation. Together, we are building a nation we are proud of, a nation defined by opportunity, unity, and purpose. Grenada is more than a place on the map. It is our heritage, our future, our home. We look forward to welcoming you.
The Grenville Cooperative Credit Union introduces its new digital platform, managing your finances at any time from anywhere.
As a part-time student, balancing work and studies can be a real challenge. But with GCCU's digital app, these worries are no more. My parents can now remotely transfer funds to my account and I can check my balance at any time, giving me the freedom to achieve my goals.
My days can be long and tedious. With this app, I can ensure my loan is paid on time, transfer funds to someone else's account, and check my balances. I don't have to rush to do business during my lunch hour or after work anymore.
With this app, I can request checks to pay my suppliers, letters for my business transactions. I don't have to leave my farm to go stand in line.
The Grenville Credit Union digital platform. It's convenient and secure banking right at your fingertips. Download the app today from the Play Store or App Store or call 442-8602, 459-4325 or 416-8467 for further information.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. We're speaking about the NDC on the 4th anniversary of the election victory back in 2022. In this section, of course, you can weigh in, you can share your views, 440-1252. That's the number. Elections. Prime Minister say prepare for the Kong shell.
Of course.
All right.
Yes.
Is the party ready?
Ready.
Party is ready.
Yes, ready. And just want to answer quick. We have just instituted our UTAM, so we just have a UTAM, an active UTAM. We have our women's arm, and we have all the organs gel.
Let me ask you this. You said the party is ready,
yeah,
but I have not seen a caretaker listed for St. George's Northwest, and this is 3 years after the former caretaker and competitor has been moved aside. You can't be ready because you only have 14 people.
Of course we're ready. No, we know the dates. We know we're ready. So we are in time with everything.
Okay, so we have a caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Dowe, and to your guests. Sir Walter Scott in 1808, just brief comment, wrote a poem which began as follows. Oh, what a tangled web we weave, because first we practice to deceive, ... The quantity of ambiguities, incongruencies, inconsistencies there from these gentlemen in defense of their incompetence, ineptitude, and improvisionism has me befuddled. Of all the they spoke about, however, I did not hear them speak of two, which I'd like to highlight. One, the removal of the services for the elderly people of this country to get medical tests, because government's laboratory cannot provide them, and these poor people have to go and pay for them in laboratories. I didn't hear you boast of that as a success story. Neither did I hear to end here that the institutionalized extortion imposed on the people of Simon Bolivar Village, like alone with houses to them years ago, and now you're telling them that they have to pay for the houses, not pardon for the houses, pardon, I retract that part, pay for the land. Institutionalized is extortion. I'd like to get your comments on these things. For what it was, Mr. Dowe, so do have a nice evening. Will you?
Thank you very much, caller. Well, go ahead.
Citizen, I disagree with both of your positions on those matters. But I think, in all honesty, if there are any challenges and Grenadians have seen that they face, and they speak out or they talk to any government official, we always work our best to be able to resolve it. The truth is, we can't run a society that is just an open sepulcher and, in a sense, things just happening all over the place and nobody could account for it. And so in the instance, his last point about the land in Lacolome, the ownership of property is probably the single most important investment any human family could make in themselves and for the future continuation of their family. And so while it is important to eat every day, it is also important to think about the long term. And what the government has done in this instance and many other instances with some of these homes, the Chinese assisted housing, is to ensure that the people are owning it themselves, as opposed to the arrangement that was there in the past where it almost led to no maintenance, rust, rundown, that sort of thing. And so that.
So is it just a rental or leased, or what was the case before? Not is implying that there was no ownership prior in Lacolome and the Chinese low-income houses.
No. And there was just an open situation where people would pay, and even if you pay your full, you can't get it maintained.
Are you paying to own, or is it like a rental or lease agreement?
No, I can't speak so much about what the thinking was back then, but now what we have done is to reform that program and to ensure that when people pay into it, they can go to the bank and purchase it, and this becomes part of their collateral.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Go ahead, callers. Hello? Please be listening on your telephone and please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. All right, we lost that caller. We'd have to.
Hello?
Callers, go ahead, caller. Please listen on your telephone and be brief. That person would have to call back. That individual would have to call back. Callers, please, when you're calling, listen on your telephone once you're answered, and please be brief because we want to get as many callers as is possible. All right. You mentioned the manifesto of the people. It was what is it? The People's Manifesto. Yeah. What's that concept?
So the People's Manifesto is a promise that the voices of ordinary Grenadians, not politicians, right? Not just politicians, will help shape the next agenda for government. Now, the last time when we did our manifesto, we had some folks in a room and we put some concepts together that we think that the people will want. Now, what we are seeing is that now we have 4 years has passed, right? And we think the proper way to do it is to hear from the people, give them a chance to assist in writing the manifesto, to be co-authors of the manifesto. And as government, we are saying that we need to listen to you, the people. And because at the end of the day, we believe that government should be of the people, for the people, and by the people.
Speaking about the people, we have a caller online.
No problem.
Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yeah. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
The minister, Mr. William, Mr. Andy, I think I've been lagging in the past and when he came in power, telling the minister that they will put toilet and washroom and things on the compound. And up to better day, I'm going to washroom, I'm going to assistance facility. You put some cold water on the side, right? Tropical and things, you put them planting flowers. You plant some big palm tree in it, and all those scatter, and I told about it, then you take man. Palm tree, I mean, it's to them up like you say empty, all know it empty still, just all the is just mud. What's your plan for the lagoon? Why didn't put people back in the lagoon and thing in the area where build a nice little set for the people to sell and hustle and take care of the family? You club the say you come to clean up and make it better, and you bring toilet and you da. Up to the not toilet.
Excellent question, caller, and I love that question. Because what we did, when you saw how the lagoon was, well, let me put it, the Quantigian Boulevard was, and we have it, on the Quanti James, it was not a good site. So we cleaned it up, we brought it to a stage where it's, you could feel comfortable to go there, have like a lunch or so, because we put some benches there, we beautify it and so. No, we want to go a step further to enhance it. So as we speak now, we are doing the environmental impact assessment, because it's by the seaside. So you can't just do any development like that without doing the proper things. Now, the caller may find it may take a little while, but we have to do the proper things first in order to get it done. So we can't just go and just put up this, put up that, because we can do that, but we can have adverse effects just by working in the wild. Look at what happened with the Sudders breakwater. No, the people are feeling the effects of it because the proper study and so was not done when certain things were being implemented. So we are following the right path. We are taking our time. We are doing what is right, so that whatever we do there, it wouldn't backfire on us at the end of the day.
Okay. Can we just drive along the Karani James Boulevard and end up on Port Highway and talk about the proper things and what we want to see on Port Highway?
Well, let me just put it like this. Rome wasn't built in a day. So we are taking it step by step. We started with the Karani James Boulevard, and we will put a plan in place for the Port Highway. So all in all, it's a process, and we are taking our time to ensure that we get there.
We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Now.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, are you hearing me, Colin?
We are hearing you.
Yes, okay. I want to say good night to the two guests there, these distinguished people. And of course, I really have to compliment Ron. You know, Ron, I lie down on my bed right now, and Ron, I'm trembling, because you remind me so much of Morris Bishop in terms of your mannerism and your language and how you speak. You really remind me of Morris. I think I told you that before already. But I'm looking at you all tonight, and I'm very proud that you all, in terms of the party and the work of the party and the government, I'm proud of you all. Because, of course, I speak in my capacity as a foundation member of the NDC. So I speak with authority. And, of course, I handed over a party to you all, a ready-made party, and of course, and a golden platter. And I'm very proud to see that you all are carrying it with distinction. I'm happy. But again, I just want to say, Ron, I think I spoke to you already about the color party. The color of the party is not yellow, it's gold. Because we took a decision that the gold, the heart, and the heart of gold to represent like the flag. And it's only yellow, same. So I think I spoke to you about it already. I would love it to go back to the original color. Maybe you could have the convention, when you have the convention, you could put that motion, because all these things was adopted when we had our
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. I'm sorry I have to cut you, caller. Thank you very much. Ron blush already. We have another caller online, I believe, and if we do, let's go to the other caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, just step away from your television.
Yeah, I just want to find out from Andy and Ron and them. When is the deadline for cleaning up Lagoon Road?
Lagoon Road.
Let me explain about Lagoon Road, right? I think because that's the second call on it, right? So let me just take my time and explain that. So when we came into office, the lagoon, it was like a dump heap. Yeah, people had boats there for a long time.
If I'm to cut your apologies, the deadline for cleaning up Lagoon Road and we extend into Port Highway, that's the question.
Well, Lagoon Road is cleaned. I think what we're doing now, that's the point I'm making, we want to bring some development to the Lagoon area.
Right.
And what we have done, I mean, I will share it after on the NDC page afterwards, and the MIT page. What we have done from the Ministry of MIT is that we have a plan in place to develop the lagoon. But you cannot just go ahead and implement the plan like that. You have to do certain things first. Yeah, in a lagoon, you must do your environmental impact assessment, and that is being done now.
Is there a time frame to accomplish that?
We are looking to finish the assessment by September, and we are looking to start construction at the end of this year.
Okay.
We have money in budget for it already, so the lagoon will be evolving.
Okay.
Right? So
and Port Highway?
Port Highway will be next. We had some some younger folks from TAMCC that came in and did a plan for Port Irie, and we are looking at that. But I just want to say, guys, that we have to appreciate where we came from with the lagoon, where we are now, and you will see where we want to go with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We just go on the. I think we have another caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yes. Good night to the program. I have a question I would like to ask any one of the members of the NDC there that can answer. And that question has to do with the carnage. Is there any plans in the near future for the development of the carnage? Because I could remember probably as far back as 25, 30 years ago that there were plans to look at improving the carnage. There was plans for turning the carnage into a pedestrian area at one point. There was plans for putting a boardwalk along the carnage. And as it stands right now, the carnage is in terrible disrepair. Portions of the carnage sidewalk is falling apart. The water is undermining the road. The defense of the sidewalk itself in terms of the tiles that was driven there is now useless because of the high tide, the water comes up, blocks the drain. You have
Sorry about that, caller. Yes, so I think any plans for the development of the carnage, and of course I know the caller would want timelines.
Yeah, right. So we're not in a position to give timelines right now. However, we have received at cabinet level several proposals, presentations on the upgrade of the carnage. This is part of what we consider to be the improvement, upgrade, enhancement of heritage sites throughout the length and breadth of the country, and the carnage is identified as one. We have seen in recent history the GTA intervene to be able to start or commence the clearing, so to speak, along with other stakeholders, RGPF, etc., of some of the docking. I would say illegal docking, if that is too much of a strong term, but illegal docking of some of the boats along there to help clean up the whole harbor and bring it and restore it to what it was.
Okay. We have another caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, I call back in case, gentlemen. I have some discussion on this still. Now, you have to hold on the carnage with the wall bus, the sea buses and by her bus Lombayade. That is in the NP time. And that still come and meet NDC there and they will leave them again. And do you have any engineers? Sleeping engineers? Or engineers working? How could you have a little thing, a little tool by the sea coast for all the years and then nobody can remember? A board by the sidewalk, you go mash up again and you go big up again and you go mash up. What are we going to do? Come on, man. What the engineers are sleeping over life? Put the thing walking and block up the hole and get up some board on the way right there. Time, years go. Come on, how are we going to do?
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Well, you heard the caller there, but you hear the passion. But let me also just
we
talk about the vehicles. Yeah. I'm now seeing a collection of derelict vehicles on the carnage, and that's relatively new. Derelict vehicles, right. Yes, immobile. There's no question about that on the carnage. Right. Is there? Well, you seem to be surprised by it, so I would leave that. I'd leave that with you.
I've noticed that. Maybe because of the ongoing pipe relaying project in this.
It was there way before that.
Well, okay. Right.
They were there before that.
So when the show finishes calling, you can let me know. My ministry is the one who deals with derelict vehicles, so you can let me know and we can look to address it.
No problem.
Okay. But let me just tell a caller, I don't want him to feel ignored. Caller, we hear what you're saying, we are taking notes, and we will see exactly what we can do to remedy the situation that he just called about.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If I'm just to get back to the party readiness, and let me just ask this. Is the party actively seeking to replace the member of parliament or the caretaker for St. Patrick's East?
When you say replace,
hold on, I think.
Yeah, no, that's just that. Is the party actively seeking to replace the member of parliament for St. Patrick's Day?
So let me explain.
MP Dennis Cornwall.
Right. So let me explain as General Secretary. We have a process. Every candidate has to go through the screening process. After you go through the screening process, there will be a recommendation. After the recommendation, the Prime Minister will go to the branch and present the MP or caretaker to the branch. The branch will say if they agree for the person to go ahead to represent them or not. Then when that happens, the next process is to go to the NEC, the National Executive Council, for confirmation. So it's not us to decide, it's for the people to decide. And the NDC caretakers are not selected, they are elected, basically. So the process is for the people of St. Patrick's East to be able to decide.
So has a decision been made for St. Patrick's East?
We are in the process now to go back to the branch, right, with the MP, and then the branch will make the decision. That's what we do at the NDC. So even the Prime Minister had to go through the same process.
So the Prime Minister, is the Prime Minister settled? Yes. St. David settled?
Yes.
So St. David is settled?
St. David is settled.
All right. Is St. Mark's settled?
St. Mark's, not yet.
Not as yet settled.
It's going through the same process. Is
there an active movement by the people of St. Mark to replace the caretaker?
Well, I would not say an active movement, but again, we follow the same process, right? So we have completed part of the process already, and in the coming weeks we will go through the.
Do you believe that the current caretaker has lost the support of the constituency branch?
What I can tell is that he has done a great job in St. Mark.
That wasn't my question.
When you look at,
do you believe that he has lost the support of the constituency members in the constituency branch?
Well, I cannot speak for the people of St. Mark. I cannot speak for the branch of St. Mark. I can tell you, when I look at what he has done for St. Mark's, even he's not an MP for St. Mark's, and he has done more than what the MP did in years.
Was there a recent meeting of the branch in St. Mark?
Yes, there were.
Was a question asked for all who would like him to remain as caretaker to stand up?
Did you come to our meeting, Colin? You sound like if you came to our meeting.
I'm just asking if that question was asked.
Yes, it was asked.
Okay. Yeah. What proportion of the room stood up?
I cannot say exactly what proportion now. I think you're really getting into the balls of it, but it's one that the people they made a decision. I prefer not to say it now.
No problem.
And let me tell you why. Because even after the next day, we saw people were speculating and sharing information that was not true.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have to understand that people have feelings too.
Right.
I mean, when you do that, you can hurt people's feelings. So, so that's the thing.
Is the party actively seeking to replace the Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Northeast?
And again, the party does not replace. It's the people are the ones who replace or not. So the process is being followed. There's no favoritism. And, so
a caretaker, has a caretaker been identified for St. Andrew Northeast as yet?
Yes, so what we do, we have St. Andrew Northeast, that's Tessa Sincere. She is a present caretaker. And we give the branch, we give the caretaker the first preference, right? If the branch says no, then we'll open it for other persons of interest.
Okay. Yeah. So, but you said St. David was settled.
St. David was settled.
I believe St. George Southeast is settled.
St. George Southeast, yeah.
St. George Northeast is settled.
And let me just say, why is
St. George South settled?
St. George South is the greatest, of course. And I want to just pick up my people of the South now as we speak here tonight, right? But let me just say this, that the branches that are settled are branches that we went back to.
Right, to complete the process.
Yeah, and with the candidates, and they said yes.
Okay. The DPM, just maybe a new introduction in the upcoming general elections. What impact do you anticipate they would have?
I think Mr. Red want to take that question.
No, I think, as with everything else, they are participating in a democratic process, and where we sit, we wish them well. As it stands right now, the focus, certainly of us, is not so much on the amount of competitors, but what we are looking to do is to ensure that our record and our performance over the last number of years is so impactful that anybody who's contesting any NDC candidate will have great difficulty to be able to win that seat.
Let me just ask this, and let's just take a look at a couple of constituencies. What do you anticipate the impact of the DPM will be in the town of St. George?
We are still going through the numbers. We are still analyzing a number of data points. But where we sit, we are confident fairly that Senator Claudette Joseph is going to win that seat for the National Democratic.
We believe in running our race. Yeah. And we certainly believe that if we do the right thing for the people, we have nothing to worry about. So we don't spend our time,
But as you analyze, you do what you have to do, yes. But you're analyzing, you must run the numbers, you know where you have to put additional resources. It's part of the process, right? So you said that you're confident in the town of St. George. What do you believe the impact of the DPM may be in St. Andrew Southeast?
Well, again, it's a relative question, and the situation is fluid. I would answer in this way as PRO, that having looked at the entire political landscape, we are confident that the presence of the National Democratic Congress is ever present, and in some instances, in areas where traditionally may not have been leaning towards the NDC, we are seeing for the first time that there is even greater enthusiasm for people in support of the NDC. And I can give you one example. You cited St. Mark earlier on. That is an area that we are ever gaining more confidence that once the work is continued, foundation laid by Senator Quince Britton is continued, we are going to see eventually the emergence of an NDC.
But Colin, let me tell you, after saying something important. In St. Andrew Southeast, right, we have done polls there. And we are seeing the party is seeing a positive rating in the 70s. Our Prime Minister is also seeing a positive rating in that constituency in the 70s. But not just St. Andrew Southeast, through the whole of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, the party is getting some very high ratings from the polls that we have done. So we know we are doing a good job and we are leading in those areas. All in all, is to put things in place to ensure that we maintain those numbers.
I want to ask about one other constituency, and that would be St. John. The impact of a DPM introduction into the race on St. John. You knew that the race was a razor-thin majority. The impact of a DPM on St. John.
Well, again, I don't know if you might like how I answer the question, but my thing with the DPM, they focus on their agenda. We are focusing on our agenda. And I think with the Minister Karen James, she's doing her best. You have roads which was not addressed in years, Colin, it's been addressed now. And she's doing her best. And we know that if once we do the work, once we satisfy the people, we are confident that the numbers will be favorable to us come next election. And that seat we have, and this seat, because we, again, from the numbers, we are aiming for a 15-0 in the next elections. I can tell you that straight.
So that means you have confidence that you would name a candidate for St. George's Northwest that will be very competitive.
Of course.
And you have growing confidence of gaining seats in St. Andrew and retaining St. Patrick East.
And the numbers shows that.
And the numbers show that.
We are very confident.
All righty. Yeah. Gentlemen, we're out of time. Yeah. So I will just give each of you an opportunity to make some closing comments. So we will start off with you, PRO Ronald.
Thank you very much, Brother Colin, and it's a pleasure to once again come and speak to the people on behalf of what the National Democratic Congress is doing. We are confident that we are putting in the work over the last 4 years. There have been some challenges, but we've been able to overcome a number of them, and we still have a lot more work to do into continuing to build Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And so one of the things that we want to be able to leave with the people is that going forward, once re-elected, the question of constituency assemblies, the participation of the people is going to be greater enshrined, not just from a legal standpoint, but in action as well. So that's why we are leading out what is called the People's Manifesto. So when the people give the ideas and we put that together, they will help implement it.
Would we just see local government in Carriacou as a first, which was in the manifesto but not yet operationalized?
That is the thinking of the Honorable Prime Minister, and we will work extremely hard to see it achieved nationally.
Okay. Closing comments?
No, I just want to thank everyone who supported the National Democratic Congress, who took the chance on us when we, in the last cycle, right? We are a bunch of young men who were inexperienced, and we tried our best, we did our best to ensure that we satisfied those folks who really took the chance to put us there. And we want to say thank you. We want to say to continue believing in us. We know we have more to do, and we are committed to the job, yeah? And we are listening. And that is why the People's Manifesto is not just about us coming to the people and saying what we want, but we have embarked on this initiative to hear what our people want, because we understand that the best plan sometimes comes from the people. And we believe once we listen, we are exercising the principle of government being of the people, for the people, and by the people.
Thank you very much, MP Andy Williams, General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, and the PRO, Ron Redhead, Member of Parliament for St. George's Northeast. It was a pleasure hosting you. Best wishes to you both. And to you, ladies and gentlemen, again, we say thank you for giving up part of your Monday evening, for being with us, and probably some of World Cup football as well. And we look forward to your joining us again in the next 6 days, 22.5 hours. Godspeed, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you, gentlemen.
That's fine.